Cinderella. Once upon a time, there lived a sweet little girl called Ella. Her mother had died when she was a child, and soon her father too died. She lived with her mean stepmother and her two proud stepsisters. They made Ella do all the housework. "Clean the chimney, dust the cupboards, iron my clothes," they cried. The young girl was always covered in soot and dust. Hence, she was called Cinderella. One day, the prince invited all the girls in the kingdom for a ball in the castle. Everyone, including the two stepsisters, were very excited. Cinderella, too, wanted to go to the ball, but her sisters laughed at her. "Stay at home and scrub the floors," screamed her stepmother. The day of the ball finally came. The stepmother and stepsisters left Cinderella alone at home. She was so disappointed that she began to cry. Suddenly, she saw a shimmering light. A woman with a kind smile and a wand stood in front of her. "Who are you?" asked Cinderella, surprised. The woman replied, "I'm your fairy godmother. I will help you go to the ball. Now do stop crying." "But I have nothing to wear," sobbed Cinderella. "I can't go to the ball." The fairy godmother smiled. She touched a pumpkin and turned it into a grand carriage. With a wave of her wand, she changed 6 mice into 6 magnificent horses to pull the carriage, and another mouse into a footman. Finally, she changed Cinderella's rags into a beautiful dress. "There, now you look like a princess," she said to Cinderella. "But remember, you should come back home before 12 o'clock, for then the spell will be broken." Cinderella replied, "I won't forget, thank you so much," and she went to the castle. Cinderella was the prettiest girl at the ball. Even her stepsisters did not recognize her. All the other girls were very jealous because the prince danced with her the whole night. Cinderella had a wonderful time at the ball. However, the moment she heard the clock strike 12, she remembered the fairy godmother's words and ran away. In her hurry, she left one glass slipper on the castle steps. Now the prince had fallen in love with her and wanted to find her. He said to his men, "Go to every house in the land. Find the girl whose foot fits into this glass slipper. She will be the one I will marry." The prince's men reached Cinderella's house. The two step-sisters tried hard to get their big feet to fit into the slippers, but in vain. Finally, Cinderella said, "May I try as well?" To everyone's surprise, Cinderella's foot fit perfectly into the glass slipper. The prince and Cinderella were soon married in a grand ceremony. The wicked sisters never bothered her again. Sleeping Beauty. Once upon a time in a faraway land, a beautiful girl was born to the king and queen. Fairies from all over were invited for the celebration. They brought with them precious gifts and blessed the little princess so that she would become a clever, beautiful, and kind girl. Just then, an old wicked fairy came to the palace and cursed the princess. "On your 16th birthday, you will prick your finger on a spindle and die." She screamed in anger and vanished. Everybody was shocked. A young fairy said, "I can't take away the evil witch's curse, but I'll try to help. When the princess pricks herself, she won't die, but will instead fall into a deep sleep and will only awaken with the kiss of a prince who loves her." The king and queen were so worried for their dear daughter that they ordered all the spinning wheels of the kingdom to be destroyed forever. However, unknown to them, one spinning wheel was still left. As the years went by, the baby grew to be a lovely, charming young girl. On her 16th birthday, when she was roaming about the castle, she came upon a secret room at the very top of the castle towers. Curious, she went in to find an old woman bent over a spinning wheel. "Oh, what's this?" she cried, for she had never seen such a thing before. She pleaded with the woman, "Please do let me try it as well." But the minute she touched the needle of the spindle, she fell to the ground. The witch's spell had come true. With a heavy heart, the king ordered her to be taken to a grand room where she would lie. The whole kingdom was sad. The youngest fairy watched all of this. She said with a wave of her wand, "Let the whole kingdom fall asleep with the princess, so when she is woken by her prince, she will not be alone." The moment she said this, all the people and all the animals in the kingdom fell asleep where they were. Everything stopped. As the years went by, a thick forest grew around the palace and the kingdom to hide it. Exactly 100 years later, a handsome prince was passing through the forest when he discovered the strange kingdom. While exploring it, he was surprised to find the beautiful princess lying fast asleep, and immediately fell in love with her. "I wonder who she is," he said. "How gentle and peaceful she looks." He leaned down and kissed her. Instantly, the spell was lifted. The princess and all the people awoke. There was joy and celebration all around. The prince and princess were soon married, and they lived happily ever after. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, lived a beautiful princess. Her skin was white as snow, her lips were red as roses, and her hair was black like the night. Her name was Snow White. Snow White had a beautiful but proud stepmother who was a witch. Every day, she stood in front of her magic mirror and asked, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of us all?" The mirror used to answer, "You are, O Queen." However, one day she stood in front of her magic mirror and asked, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of us all?" The mirror replied, "You are beautiful, but Snow White is the fairest of them all." The jealous queen was so angry that she ordered Snow White to be taken to the forest and killed. But the guard took pity on Snow White and instead left her deep in the forest. Snow White wandered through the forest alone till she finally saw a strange house in the middle of the woods. The house belonged to 7 dwarfs. The kind dwarfs heard her sad story and said, "You can live with us, Snow White." "Oh, thank you," she said. "I can take care of you." So every day, when the dwarfs went off into the forest to work, Snow White stayed back. In the meantime, the wicked stepmother eagerly asked her mare the question. But the mare again answered, "You are still fair, but none to Snow White can compare. Deep within the forest glen, there she stays with 7 little men." The furious queen decided to go to the forest and kill Snow White. She disguised herself as an old woman selling apples, filled a basket with poisoned apples, and went to the dwarf's house. She knocked on the door. "Good morning," she said in a hoarse voice. "Do buy some of these wonderful apples. They are very sweet and tasty." Snow White was scared to open the door to strangers, but the woman pleaded. She said, "Look how big, round and red they are. They are delicious." Snow White couldn't resist. She took an apple, but the minute she bit into the poisonous apple, she fell to the ground. The evil queen ran away laughing wickedly. When the dwarfs returned, they were shocked to see Snow White lying like she was dead. They put her in a glass case and sadly sat around her. Just then, a prince rode by. He saw the beautiful Snow White in the case and fell in love with her. He leaned over and kissed her. At that moment, the evil witch's magic spell was broken, and Snow White awoke. The dwarfs were overjoyed and danced in glee. The prince and Snow White were married and lived happily ever after. The Shoemaker and the Elves. Once upon a time, there lived a kind shoemaker and his wife. Sadly, nobody bought his shoes anymore, and they had become poor. He only had cloth left to make one last pair of shoes. To console him, his wife said, "Don't worry too much. Everything will soon be all right. Leave the cloth on the table. You can stitch the shoes tomorrow. Let's go to bed now." However, 4 little elves who had been outside their window had heard them talking. They felt sorry for the kind man. "We must help the poor shoemaker," they decided. The smart, talented elves fluttered into the house through the window. They took the cloth and soon began cutting, sewing, and decorating it. Before morning, they made the most beautiful pair of shoes in the whole world and flew away. In the morning, the shoemaker and his wife were amazed to see the pretty shoes lying on the table. Who made this? They both wondered. They are lovely. Soon a merchant saw the shoes in the shop window and immediately bought them. He gave the shoemaker enough money to buy cloth for 2 pairs of shoes. That night, too, the shoemaker left the cloth on the table before going to bed. The elves returned. Before sunrise, they had made 2 more pairs of shoes that were much prettier. This continued for many more nights. Lovely shoes that the elves made used to wait for the shoemaker every morning. The shoemaker and his wife were puzzled. "I wonder who our friends are," they said. "We must thank them for their kindness." They decided to stay awake that night and hide behind the door to find out who made the shoes for them. As they waited, they saw the elves fly in, laughing, singing, and quickly stitching the shoes. "How lucky we are!" exclaimed the shoemaker once the elves had left. "We must give them something in return." The wife suggested, "Their clothes were torn. Let us make tiny clothes for them." They both worked hard to make the best clothes, including the cutest pair of shoes for the friendly elves, and left them on the table the next night. When the elves came, they were thrilled to see their new clothes. They danced and sang in happiness and flew out of the window, never to return again. The shoemaker continued to make the best shoes in town and sold them. He and his wife never forgot the kind elves who had helped them in their time of need. The Ugly Duckling. Once upon a time, there lived a mother duck. She was excited. Her 5 eggs were finally going to hatch. She watched and counted as one by one the eggs hatched. "1 duckling, 2 duckling, 3, 4, 5 ducklings," she said happily. Suddenly, she noticed that there was one more egg It was bigger and whiter than the rest. "This cannot be my egg," she thought. Slowly, the big egg began to crack and a strange-looking duckling came out. Mother Duck was surprised. The youngest duckling was gray and bigger than the rest. "How ugly this little one is," she thought. As the days went by, the ducklings began to grow. But the youngest duckling looked different from the rest. Everybody looked at him and said, "There goes the ugly duckling!" His brothers and sisters teased him all the time. The ugly duckling felt very bad. Whenever people laughed at him, he used to run away and hide behind the reeds near the lake. "Nobody loves me," he sobbed. One day, the duckling decided to run away from home. He swam and he swam. On the way, he had many adventures. In the woods, hunters tried to shoot him, but he ran away from them and their dogs. He had never been so scared. He escaped to an old woman's house. But when she found out that he couldn't lay any eggs for her, she shooed him out. The duckling lived for some time near another lake. But winter came, and soon the water in the lake became ice. The duckling shivered and shook in the freezing cold. He was rescued by a kind farmer. But the farmer's naughty son chased him all around and threw stones at him. He ran away from there too, squawking in fear and pain. The duckling was tired from all his travels, but he trudged on with a heavy heart. Finally, during spring, he reached a shimmering lake. There he saw two beautiful white birds with long necks, swimming gracefully. He looked at them and thought, "How beautiful those birds are, but I'm so ugly. They will never let me stay with them." Just then, he looked into the water at his reflection. To his surprise, he saw that he looked just like the other two elegant birds. The birds came to him and said, "Welcome, young friend. You must be the most beautiful swan in this whole lake." It was then that he realized who he really was. The ugly duckling had become a beautiful swan.